This is the Real Life Blue Stories podcast with your host, Megan Hall. Welcome to episode 3. Uh, so I have some folks here with me. You might know them just a little bit. This is my former staff from Indie Intercept / Stadium Rant / these are just my guys. Hi guys. It's good to see
Hey,
you.
what's up, Meg?
But
Was good, Meg.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you. I appreciate it. It was like a little delayed. Chris was like, "Oh, if I must," just for old time's sake. Chris was like giving me grief already. We're 30 seconds into the podcast, and Chris is like, "Oh, all right, I'm here. Thank you." But the staff is back, so they are starting up a new Colts content website called HorseShoe Pride. It is soon come. We'll be here very, very soon. And I figured, why not have them back? And if you knew me from my Stadium Rant days, and you know that I had two people, I had Justin as well on episode 3 of the Indie Intercept podcast. And it started this whole thing. And when we got done with that episode, we were like, man, that was really fun. So then it became a thing that we did. And eventually, I think once we got up to the entire staff, we had like 7 people on a podcast, which is like absolute chaos to do. So probably not that tonight, but we got 4 right now. And Justin, if you're listening, we're waiting on you. So let's go. All right. So run of show, beef with Ballard. We're bringing that back because Kev has been ranting about Ballard. Like he's been ranting for a minute about Ballard. We're going to talk about the head coach search as well, Hall of Fame, and why or why not people should be in it. Senior Bowl standouts, Combine Pro Day expectations, and then we have a segment called Blue Light Special where you guys get to ask me any questions that you would like, within reason, of course. And we'll go from there. So let's start with this beef with Ballard. So I think this is like a month ago now, maybe a little more than a month ago. Chris Ballard has his end of season presser, and it basically was, I don't know, like a lot of things. Kev, do you have words? Let's start with you. What were your impressions of this presser?
I loved it. I had a great time watching this presser, not only when it first happened, but again today. It was a little refresher to get ready for the show. I took some notes. I have some of my most memorable quotes from Chris Ballard. I want to share a couple of those with all of you, if you'll allow me that. So the first one, and maybe
Go
my
for it.
favorite, put that on my gravestone. You have to be good up front. So that's some quality analysis right there. Let's see. We have the 4th pick this year. We earned that. Yes, absolutely. But this one was a bit prophetic, if you will. I don't care if it takes until mid-February to hire a head coach. It's about getting it right. So he wasn't lying there, but in general, he also said I would take 53 DeForest Buckners, which just reminded me of John Madden. So here you have DeForest Buckner against DeForest Buckner. That would be just wow. Guys, my take on this whole thing was it was a lot of excuses. There was a lot of finger pointing back at the journalists in the room. If I draft a quarterback, you guys will celebrate it, and then you'll tell me that I'm bad. Well, Mr. Ballard, I would suggest you not include any of that into your decision making. But it just felt very PR heavy to me, guys. A lot of vague HR speak. We got to get it right. We're taking this very seriously. We got to look at this. We got to look at that. I would not suggest doing a drinking game because if you decide to drink every time Chris Ballard says, I'm not going to sit here and say, you might not make it through the entire 40-minute show. And I'll just go ahead and pause. I don't want to take all the good talking points from you all, but
I'm hollering because that's so accurate. So accurate. Yeah, I'll say this. I didn't think it was PR speak, but I did think that it was the most honest we've seen him be in 6 years. He came out immediately and was like, I failed, a lot of folks. And I think that was the first time we've ever seen him say that out loud about failing in any capacity, because he's been very defensive about everything, starting with like the wide receivers, offensive line. Like you couldn't say anything to him about it. And I think Chris at one point, like during the season, was like banging on the table because he's so frustrated with Chris Ballard. And that's all I could think about was like these fans are probably banging on the table watching this like presser because they're like, these are all the things we've been saying. Um, and I want to get Chris. I want to get your thoughts on this too. I was listening to Zach Kiefer talk on it was like a local radio station with JMV, and Zach Kiefer was on there, and he basically was saying he talked about Chris Ballard's philosophy and how it hasn't worked. This kind of stingy philosophy, and to Kev's point, being tough in the trenches, we'll say, and that it hasn't worked, and essentially the rest of the league has left the Colts in the dust while Chris Ballard is still, resting on his laurels. So, what are your thoughts, I guess, on like how Ballard's philosophy has shaped this roster up till now?
Well, well, you know how I feel about our roster. I, I do think our roster is good. One thing I'll never take away from Chris Ballard is that he knows how to evaluate talent and he knows how to draft as far as like incoming. But he was a scout. Like that's his. That's what his thing. That's what he was in Kansas City. He was a scout, director of player personnel or whatever. Like that's what he did. So of course his scouting is going to be top tier. But we look at the Eagles, right? And within 5 years, they've went to the Super Bowl, blew up the team. Now they're right back in the Super Bowl. And when your GM is building through the draft and they're building through free agency, they're signing people mid-season because they need to add depth somewhere, all these different things, you see a formula that works. You see what Kansas City's doing. What, 5 AFC championships, 2 or 3 Super Bowls in 5 years? The formula works. And yet here we are just chilling. I mean, hell, the Jaguars who just won the division. And granted, I mean, I'm not saying like they're world beaters, but they put together a formula where they drafted a quarterback, they spent money in free agency, they built in the draft, and here we are. The Jacksonville Jaguars look like they might have arrived and they could be running our division for the next however many years. So I mean, it's just like and I mean, maybe Ballard's philosophy changes because he sees it has not worked. Or unless the press conference was just woe is me and feel sorry for me, and I'm going to continue to do the same thing I've been doing for the past 6 years. But yes, trust the process. I mean, we see the Philadelphia 76ers, they've been trusting the process ever since, and it has not worked yet. So yet I guess we should stay the course and trust the process as well, right? So I mean, I don't know. I like our receiving room. I think we need to add more to our receiving room. Said that last offseason. We'll continue to say that this offseason. Because outside of Michael Pittman, and he's not even a true wide receiver number one, but Alex Pierce, hopefully he continues to develop. I don't know if we're bringing Paris back. And then outside of those 3, you have nothing. Like you literally have nothing. Somebody goes down, you just hope somebody can step up. But yeah, man. We need to get our quarterback.
So I heard so much that I feel like you've been waiting to just let that all out.
I think that last point was the most important one. Ballard has never had to pull the trigger on a quarterback in the draft. He's drafted prospects late rounds. He's never been in a position where he's had to draft a young quarterback. That's where the GMs are made or broken. That's why they make the big bucks. The franchise rests on your quarterback decision, and he's now in that position where he has to do that. And so he's never been tested like he's going to be tested this year.
If our quarterback decision if our coaching search is any indication of our quarterback decision, we might not get a quarterback this draft because we will be passed on at the 4th pick because they'll be taking too long. So we'll see what happens.
Please, I might spontaneously combust if that's the case. Boom. I know you probably have thoughts as well about Chris Ballard. Probably of the Kev variety where you've been ranting or trying not to explode. I guess to Chip's point, like, what do you think Chris Ballard will do at this juncture? Do you think he takes a quarterback this draft, or do you think he'll wait?
Honestly, if Bryce and CJ aren't there at the 4 pick, I can see us trading down. Just for the simple fact that you can say the whole, we're just going to select the best player available. No, that doesn't always work, and that's just a lazy ass excuse. Excuse my French. But No, if CJ is there, I really hope and pray we select CJ. I think he'll be a perfect fit for our team, but again, we have to make sure that we have the right coach so we can
Mhm.
build the right culture around him. Because at the end of the day, the offense is going to be built around our new quarterback's ability. So, um, if CJ or Bryce, if they're not there, I can see us trading down, possibly maybe mid first to just get some more draft picks, maybe another first next year and a couple picks this year. But yeah, it's going to be tough. If we trade down, I could probably see us getting maybe Anthony Richardson, because God forbid we get Will Levi's. That's what I'm gonna call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
The mayonnaise man.
I
Oh gosh.
what about the opposite scenario? Something that Chris Ballard has. I mean, he's done it in the past and he's done it recently, but not in a major way. Like, do you see any scenario where he would be willing to pull the trigger to move up if they're one of those two guys that they absolutely want to have?
only way I can see him moving up is if there's some real rumors about Arizona trading down. Which
Mm.
which to be honest, if I'm Arizona, I'm staying pat, because I mean you have your option between what is it,
Mhm.
Jalen Carter and Will Anderson. Two players that you really need, to be honest, in this league right now. You either need somebody moving the pocket up, like literally in the quarterback's face, or you need that defensive end who can gain pressure and get more possessions throughout the game. So if I'm Arizona, I don't really think I want to take a flyer on trading down and possibly not even getting one of those players, because like I said, if they decide to trade down, whoever they're trading down with is going to pick either Bryce or CJ. And then I can see us trading down. And now whoever's going to trade up with us is possibly going to take either Will or Jalen with that pick. So I mean, it's really at their discretion. But let's be real here. I mean, they already got their quarterback. So your best bet is just to really get somebody who you need up front on that D line. And by the looks of it, it could possibly be the Carter kid from Georgia.
I was thinking, how ironic would it be that if it ends up being the Panthers that come calling the Colts to jump up to go get Levis, and it's
I
Frank
would
Reich and
fly
co.
down to Carolina and post up on Frank Reich's doorstep. I would do that. I would do
But
that.
it just crossed my mind when you said that, like, another team, because I'll say this, I immediately thought Will Levis when the Panthers grabbed Frank, and they're talking about that, they need to figure out who their quarterback is, that sort of thing, despite having Matt Corral on the roster, right? So in my mind, I was like, Will Levis is Carson Wentz light. Like, that is basically what he is. He looks and feels just like Carson Wentz. Can make all the throws, but the decision making is questionable. Got some questionable mechanics, and his footwork's not the best all the time. That's he feels like that sort of pick, and I'm like, that's Frank Reich's like specialty. So
I don't.
hey, if I
I'm
would not be
sorry.
surprised.
I just don't see what people are seeing in him. Like the kid Cameron Bryce, the transfer from Clemson that went to, what was it, Appalachian State or something like that, and then I went to Vanderbilt. But I don't know. It's one of those. I want to say, and then he transferred to Vanderbilt. One of those. But to me, he's a better prospect than Will Levis.
Oh, we're getting spicy now.
I can
All right,
tell
we
you, I
will.
can tell you what they see in Will Levis. He ran a pro style offense. He had a college coach as an OC for both years, even though the last one sucked. But he's had college or NFL coaches. He's ran a pro style offense, like, and he has a big arm, but he makes a lot of turnovers, just like Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
But he has a big arm. a quick release. His mechanics are there when they're there. But he throws off platform a lot just because he knows he can make those throws. But it's that's what they see in him, man. Like big arm, prototypical size, can move, and he's had 2 NFL offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
And that's what they love. And they give him the excuse of his offensive line being trash last year and him not having weapons.
Oh,
so they give him that excuse as well.
And him being injured. That was also that's also been in the conversation.
Okay. So that makes him injury prone. I mean, come on.
So I'll say this as it relates, and I'll bring it, just tie a nice, pretty bow around it. As it relates to Chris Ballard, I do think that he's going to have to sit and think about this quarterback position. But I disagree with the fact that we might trade down, because we have not been this bad enough to be in the top 4, right? Like we've always been middle of the round, and then we're like, oh, we'll just trade out of it, we'll trade down, that sort of thing. We had the flexibility to do that. I don't think we're in that position anymore. I think you got to go get your quarterback now. And the fact that you could take your pick basically from Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Will Levis, or something like that. Or let's say that you don't. Let's say that you go get a tackle at 4 or whatever. You would have to come back in the second round and take a quarterback then. You got 35, I think, is the pick. So Hendon Hooker might be there if that's if that's who you want. Anthony Richardson could fall to the second round, or back half of the first. Like there's some opportunities there. But regardless, my point I'm making is he's going to have to take one now. He's been sitting on this for 3 seasons now of, if I take someone, y'all are not going to like him. We've been doing this quarterback carousel, this Band-Aid approach, but we were always more than just that away. Like he's got a lot happened in that presser. And I do want to talk about something else that's related to quarterback play, but the offensive line, he made a comment about, well, I made some assumptions on the offensive line. I assumed that the play at left tackle and right guard would be absorbed by the play of Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith. And when I heard that, I literally almost tossed my phone, almost tossed my laptop, because I'm like, what? And so I had to calm myself down and break this down, because I'm like, okay, so left tackle was filled by Matt Pryor, which I get it. Pryor had played pretty decently in 2021. So you were like, okay, well, I don't want to go spend. There's not anybody out in free agency that I want to go get. Like we have somebody here. I want him to be at left tackle, or have first shot at left tackle. All right, let's just go with that. But then you left an open competition at right guard, like literally open comp. Can you play right guard? Great. Come jump in. And it was Will Fries and Wesley French. And Will Fries was a 7th round pick, so it was no sure thing. And Wesley French were rotating in there. Danny Pinter was in there at some point. It was literally just who's going to work? And that approach to me just blew my mind, because you had just let Mark Lewinsky and Chris Reed walk in free agency. This was where it started, where he talks about being tough up front. So you weren't tough there. You didn't double down in the trenches. And then to make matters worse, you just big old Band-Aid at the quarterback position. that was what we did.
Meg, you bring up another good point.
Blows my mind.
So he let Glow and Reed walk in the offseason. Is it hindsight 2020 to say that was a really dumb decision, or should he have known that then? And how does that bode for a lot of free agent decisions or re-signings he's going to have to make in this offseason?
That's a good question. I think I would say this. At the time, I was actually shocked that, not necessarily about Glowinski. No, that wasn't. Chris Reed was the one who I was shocked by, because he played very, very well. And I don't know, how far apart they were in contract numbers or what have you, but he didn't even play for Minnesota this season. That's the crazy thing. So you could have kept Chris Reed, who was a viable starter there, and you would have been able to plug and play behind him. I was always shocked by that he let them both go in free agency. But I think he really thought hey, I've got cheaper options here who I can develop. And yeah, again, to this point, they're going to be absorbed by the great play of the rest of the line. But the thing is, the inefficiencies at those 2 spots were so huge, so big, that the rest of the line was like, I'm sorry, what? Are we having to do our jobs too? It was like a ripple effect all the way through. And I think Chris and I had talked about this last offseason when we were in a bunch of Twitter spaces. We were talking about concerns then about not having secured the offensive line, because he remembered the season before he put Eric Fisher out at left tackle, and it was I think a lot of folks knew Eric Fisher was past his prime at that point. He'd lost his explosiveness, all that. Like it was a Band-Aid then. And I'm like, like, what is happening here, Chris Ballard? Like you had to have been more intentional here, which is why it looks so bad now, because we're like, I don't this whole stingy sort of philosophy, or like, hey, I'm gonna be cheaper here. You can't be cheap in the trenches. Like you paid the rest of the line, which is now the most highest paid offensive line in the league, but then you left two big gaping holes and didn't address them. How?
And one
Yeah,
hole at the
how-
most important offensive line position at that.
At left tackle. Yes.
Yeah.
What?
How many millions were paid per sack last season?
Ooh. Don't make me go look that up. Please don't. All right. So
I think Ryman's going to be fine, and he was a rookie. He developed it. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I do. So we'll probably spend this whole entire podcast talking about Chris Ballard. So we do have a couple more things to get to. So let's talk about head coaching search. So obviously, no one knows anything. That's where we're at right now. So if you listen to, and listen, I'm probably going to plug Zach Kiefer all offseason because he's been on it. So if you follow Zach Kiefer of The Athletic or listen to his podcast, the 1% Better podcast with James Boyd as well, really, really good stuff. And, you know, he also wrote about it too, but he basically was like, no one knows what's happening. Like none of the staff knows, the assistant coaches don't know, the players don't know, like the Colts are keeping this tight to the vest. And so it's, the news we heard today was, okay, a couple candidates out, right? That was the first time we really heard any like major sort of things. So it's really interesting that they're being very deliberate. Again, we talked about this in this press conference. You know, where it's going to take to literally it's going to be mid-February now. And so we need to talk about what we think. I'm actually going to pull this comment out because I think it came from a comment that says, hey, everyone, hopefully Steichen. I think so. Sarah is saying, hey, I hope that it's Steichen is the choice, which could be because Super Bowl is coming up in a couple days now, and he's not out of the running. But Chris has been tweeting, I think, and I won't say rage tweeting, but definitely tweeting all day on and off about Eric Bieniemy maybe still being in the mix. And I think, is that your vote for head coach, or do you think that Eric could get offered like an OC position?
Nah, I mean, he's not my vote for head coach, but I wouldn't mind if we hired him as a head coach. If you know, y'all know, I'm pushing for Morris or Steichen. Like those were my top two, and then I think Callahan and Bieniemy were like the last two.
Okay.
But that rounded out my top four. But like, if we get Morris, then if we could somehow lure Bieniemy to the Colts as the OC, I would love that. But at the same time, I don't mind going with Steichen either. And to be honest, I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, we can't sign him until after the Super Bowl, or we can't make the announcement until after the Super Bowl, which isn't true. We can't sign him until after the Super Bowl because he's coaching. So like we can't sign him until after the Super Bowl. But we can announce it before. But I think what we're doing, because it's so close to the Super Bowl, is out of respect for the NFL, the league, and the focus all being on the Super Bowl. We're waiting till after that happens to announce our head coach. It's the same thing Arizona's doing because they don't have a coach that's on their candidate or one of their candidates that's coaching right now, and they just haven't announced a coach either. But I think they're just waiting until after the Super Bowl. But yeah, I think it's those two between Morris and Steichen. Like those are the two that I think is between right now.
Okay. Kev, what you got? Because you've been a little silent, so I know you've got some thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts. I should have jumped in when we were talking Will Levis. I had a lot to say, but you guys covered all of the good points, so I didn't want to beat that horse. But I am torn. I'm gonna be honest with you. Coming into today, I was all in on Raheem Morris, and so in order to prep for the show, you know, I did a little statistical diving and Pro Football Reference just to kind of what I was hoping to do, which is bad science, by the way. I was hoping to validate my hypothesis. Supposed to be out there to disprove it, which is kind of what happened. When I look at the numbers, which obviously it's more than just a numbers game, I look at Raheem Morris's defenses, and outside of 2 years where they were very good against the run, and 1 year, that first year, 09 in Tampa, where they were very good against the pass, he's had a lot of mediocre defenses that he's coached as well. And so that kind of made me go full circle. Whereas before I was like, okay, give me a defensive minded head coach with some good staff on the offensive side. Now I'm kind of backtracking a little bit and thinking, well, the defense is what we have that works the best right now. And maybe we do go get someone with an offensive mind, because I personally, I don't like the prospect of the Colts pulling away a talented OC just to fill our OC role. I think the guys that are there that have OC jobs might be better off either staying where they are, or there may be a different opportunity where they can go work for someone who might they might be able to have that job in a couple years. I don't think they're going to want to come work for a new coach where they know that they're going to who thinks it.
So this comment that Kev was trying to read says,
You can take
who do you guys think that we're getting for head coach? Thanks for sending us back, Wink Martindale.
You're welcome.
That's a good one. That's a good one. You know, I think Boom was also in on Raheem Morris as well. In our little group chat that we were having, Boom has been like, pounding the pavement for Raheem Morris. And the thing is, I like Raheem Morris was at the top of my list as well, but I was in on Callahan, so I was actually shocked today to see him like be told like, hey, he's no longer in consideration. I thought that would have been perfect for developing a young quarterback. I still think Shane Steichen could do it as well, but I really thought that the work that they've done with the Bengals is it's phenomenal. Like that offense is humming and clicking, and I think with the right pieces we could look similar. We'll put that in really soft quotes, similar. And I think that's something that we sorely missed. Like we haven't had consistent play calling, so I would love to be able to get some 2 tight end sets, because oh my gosh, what is that? I know, Kev, same face, but yeah, but things like that where you'll be able to utilize kind of those bigger pieces that we just haven't seen that. So I honestly am not quite sure where they're leaning, but I do think, like I tweeted out earlier today, I do think they're leaning against Jeff Saturday, because I feel like it would have already been like they would have packed up the search like long ago and been like, all right, he's our guy, like carry on. I don't think that you go 5 weeks to be like, yeah, Jeff is the guy, and then if that is the case, how do you justify that with all the qualified candidates that you saw in that time, up to 13 candidates? And Jeff Saturday was the one that you picked. I'm sorry. I'm going to have a hard time believing that. The fans clearly are going to have a hard time believing that. The national media has been stunned. And no one has really referred to him as a coach. They've referred to him as an ESPN analyst. So that should tell you where people feel about Jeff Saturday. So yeah, I will be shocked if that is the case. And I think we're all going to have some fiery content if Jeff Saturday is the pick. But yeah, I think outside of that, let's also talk this too. And Chip, I want to get your thoughts on this. So something I was hearing today while I was listening to the 1% Better podcast was that Rich Bisaccia might be a wild card candidate potentially to get this head coaching job. He is in the finalists there. And he's a current special teams coordinator from Green Bay. Obviously, he worked in an interim capacity with the Raiders. But what are your thoughts there, Chip? Is that someone who you think, could work here?
Meg, I have so much PTSD from the last 8 weeks of the season. I'm just ABJS. Anybody but Jeff Saturday.
I love it. I thank you for your honesty. I'm on that train too. Anybody but Jeff Saturday. And let me say this, because also I think you guys saw it today as well. Like Shaq Leonard went on Pat McAfee's show, heavily advocating for Jeff Saturday. And when we had Jordan Murray, who's also a practice squad player, was on the podcast as well. Same thing. Like Jeff Saturday is a great guy, like great human being. Like, he really preached accountability. We loved the talk that we got from him. I didn't expect anything less. Like, I don't think these players are going to come out and like completely trash, Saturday or anything else like that. I did think what was interesting is he said that, Shaquille Leonard kind of hinted at that there was a level of accountability that wasn't there before, potentially with maybe with Frank Wright. The issue is the execution. Like, you can have all that, but the execution did not change. And in fact, it got worse as the season went on. So much so that you basically drug your defense down with you throughout the rest of the season. So that's where I'm like, I don't know how you reasonably say like, hey, Jeff Saturday could be our coach, even with quote unquote connections throughout the league. You go get a staff or whatever else. Like, I can't wrap my mind around that like this is who you would come back with after everything that you saw. And I'm sorry, I can't buy the like, hey, it was midseason, I didn't have all my cards to get it. No, you knew what it was when you signed up. Like, you literally knew what it was when you signed up. And you said to us, hey, I may be bad at this, and after 8 games, I'll say, God bless you later, I'm out. And then midway through it became, oh no, I kind of want this because, hey, I've made relationships or whatever else. But the issue was the record did not follow suit. Like, you could be a leader of men, you could be motivating, but this is a results league. This is a what have you done for me lately league. And the last thing that you did was 1-7 and give up the largest lead in NFL history.
It was more than just the record, though. You look at his actions and decisions in the game, and it was clear he's not ready to be a head coach in the NFL. I would be over the moon if he'd come and be the offensive line coach. Bring that culture and that attitude as the offensive line coach. Fix the biggest glaring weakness of our offense. That would be awesome.
So one thing I will say with him as head coach, our offensive line did play better down the stretch. Like, they played a lot better down the stretch. And we saw people get benched that should have been benched before, and people actually get playing time. And we saw that when Jeff Saturday came. And I think that speaks to some of the accountability stuff that Leonard was talking about, because he also said that that when Saturday came in, he told him, like, you're not going to play. Like, I'm shutting you down. You're not ready yet. But when Frank was here, it was, I'm going to let you go out there. Like, I'm going to let you go do what you want to do. Like, go play. But Saturday told him, nah, like, you're not even ready. I can see that you're not ready. You're not going to go back out there. So, I mean, I think those are some of the things that he meant when he was talking about the accountability stuff. And also, I guess, like, at the games and in film the next day, he'd call you out about it. But I mean, that's all well and fine. Do that to the offensive line as the offensive line coach. That's cool. But as our head coach, I think, and I'm not saying experience is everything, but to coach in the NFL, like, I think you need some level of experience, like something. Even if, hell, like, you were the water boy, that's more experience than Jeff Saturday had coming into the game, like coming into this whole head coaching thing. So I mean, although I do think, like, if he was able to put together a really good staff, then maybe his staff could carry him. But then again, who knows? Like, you really don't know, and that's really not something I'm trying to chance at this point, especially not the last season. I'm not really trying to chance that right now.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so we got a couple more things to get through. So let's talk Senior Bowl standouts. Well, actually, you know what? Let's actually do Hall of Fame, because let's keep it going with the Colts. So obviously, Hall of Fame selections were out, and there was two Colts that did not get in. And I don't know what else Reggie Wayne has to do. Like, I'm not quite sure what else he has to do to get in. Chip, I think this was your topic. What were your thoughts initially, like, when you realized, like, hey, he wasn't getting in again?
This is, in my very amateur opinion, one of the weaker classes to actually be named the Hall of Fame, and it's a travesty that at the very least Reggie Wayne was not added. It really seems to be a system where, for the most part, people who don't get in because they are the most qualified in the class, but because they've waited the longest to get in, and there's a lot of politics around who gets voted in and when. Reggie Wayne clearly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. This clearly deserved to be in, I think, over probably some of the people who made it this year, but I don't have a vote.
Oh, wow. Mike Patton said, do you think Reggie gets in before Andre beats by Dre Johnson?
Well, he's ahead of him in the all-time receiving. Well, how dare I just fly over the Beats by Dre, because that was phenomenal. But that was going to be part of my gripe here. Reggie is 10th all-time in receiving yards. Andre's 11th by about 200 yards, by the way, so he's not far off. But yeah, what's a guy got to do if top 10 all-time in receiving yards isn't Hall of Fame worthy? And I'm sure there are more. I'm looking up the touchdowns and receptions here as well. And he's 28th all time in touchdown receptions. Like, I don't know. I don't know what Reggie has to do to get that nod. I'm very upset, as you can see.
Yeah, honestly, Reggie tweeted that, like, he was good either way. But I think he's got to feel some sort of way, right? Like, it's got to bother him just a bit, like that he still hasn't gotten in. What is this, like the third time in a row?
Yeah, and those stats, Kev, how much of those came when he was playing number 2 behind Marvin Harrison? So to put up those
Clark
numbers,
was around
not even
too.
as the number 1 receiver. Yeah. And Edge was taking a lot of receptions away at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, let's also talk about Dwight Freeney not getting in, which I thought was a no-brainer. But maybe Chris said no.
No, I'm saying like that. Him not getting in is crazy. Like Dwight Freeney not getting in is. Yeah, but Andrew Luck's a first ballot. Yeah.
Oh no! Don't do that.
No one here thinks that. By the way,
I was gonna say, let me just put it out here because I know we got asked that question earlier. So shout out to Louis as well. Louis, who was also on my previous staff. Louis asked us, like, tagged all of us and was like, "Do you think he's a first ballot like Hall of Famer?" And I'm like, no. Like, I think Andrew was on his way to potentially having a Hall of Fame career. Like, you could see it potentially happening if the Colts had actually taken care of him. Then maybe. But there's not enough there for me to be like, yes, this is any sort of Hall of Fame, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth ballot. I don't care how many ballots you want to make, but no, I love Andrew Luck to pieces.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I had to make clear on Twitter today, like, because the first thing I saw when I woke up, because I check Twitter when I wake up, hoping for some head coaching news, which I did get some today, but I saw the Andrew Luck stuff, and I'm like, so I had to make it clear on Twitter, like, I love Andrew Luck to death, but let's be clear, he is not a Hall of Famer. And now, I mean, he played 6 years, right? So in those 6 years, if he won an MVP, maybe went to a Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, became a Super Bowl MVP, if he had some all pros, even a rookie of the year, then maybe you can justify some type of, because 6 years is not a long time in the NFL. So, I mean, maybe you can justify if he had some of those accolades to say, yes, he is a Hall of Famer. Look at his resume. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl MVP. He's also a league MVP. And he has 1 or 2 all pros. He has none of that. So you can't justify saying, oh, he's going to get in someday. No, he's not. He's going to get into the Colts Ring of Honor for sure.
Yeah.
But he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame. That's just not going to happen. No, it's not happening. He doesn't have the resume for it. He doesn't. And I love Andrew Luck. Could he have had a Hall of Fame career? Yes. He was on the way. And those duels between him and Mahomes would have been crazy.
Ooh.
But the career was short-lived.
There are a lot of players who go to the NFL who could have had a Hall of Fame career, but for one reason or another didn't. And Andrew Luck is one of those players. He went on his own terms, and bless him for it. And the man went to be a husband and a father, and that's awesome. But he didn't build the resume that would warrant going into the Hall of Fame. You're absolutely right. Colts Ring of Honor is where he belongs because he will be in the pantheon of Colts greats. But no, not NFL Hall of Famer.
He's in the Hall of What Ifs. That's what he's in. The Hall of What If.
He belongs in the Colts Ring of Honor, and he should be a recipient of the Eli Manning Boring Quarterback Interview Award. He was absolutely. There's a Hall of Fame for that. Andrew Luck does belong there.
I mean, listen, if you were talking about the person to own a flip phone for the longest, it's probably Andrew Luck, who was a multi-million-dollar man, and he had a flip phone. So that should tell you all you need to know about Andrew Luck. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit. So we've got a couple things. So we got Senior Bowl, Combine, Pro Day. We'll combine those together and talk about those. Boom, I'm going to get you because you've been quiet a little bit. Did you watch Senior Bowl? And if you did, anybody stand out to you or names that you were looking at that you were like, yes, I could see the Colts drafted that guy?
I looked a little bit. I didn't get to watch too much of the Reese Senior Bowl. I saw a little bit of the East-West Shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Really didn't. Well, I would say one person that I looked to stand out did kind of get a little bit of shine, and that was IU linebacker Cam Jones. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing some good things about him. Like I said, he's one of the players that, I mean, I'm an IU fan, but he's one of the players that I've been watching for the past 2 years because he played alongside Michael McFadden, who is now with the New York Giants, who late in the season started getting some more PT with that linebacker core. And Cam Jones, he was phenomenal last year, and then leading up to this year, and then he got injured. And I think he could have came back, but I think he wanted to preserve his body so he could get into that Reese's Senior Bowl and participate in the combine. So, but if it's one player, I would say it was him that I was looking to see who would stand out more.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but hold on. But one thing I am disappointed in is that Will Levis and Stetson Bennett decided that they were going to skip the Senior Bowls.
I mean, Will, I could see
No,
I'm assuming he must have thought like, hey, at minimum, I'm going to be a top 10 pick.
no,
Stetson Bennett though just won back-to-back natties, so he's
Also,
like,
I
hey,
think
bro, you might not get picked.
Will is hurt too. Like I think he has like a broken toe or something like that. That kept him out of
still.
the Senior Bowl.
Man,
Yeah.
again, injury prone. So why is anybody talking about him going in the top 10?
Hey, Carson Wentz 2.0. We seen it, everything.
If anything, that man is next to Blake Bortles. He reminds me of Blake,
no,
if anything.
not
But
Blake Bortles.
Nah, he got a
Oh,
lot better
no.
arm than Blake.
Yeah, come on now. That's
but no, and for real, like, okay, I didn't know if he potentially has this toe injury or whatever. I guess, but still, I felt like with you skipping the bowl game, I would have thought, okay, you're going to want to go into the Senior Bowl and you're going to want to show out because, for one, you should want to be the top quarterback in this draft class. You know, the top two are from prestigious programs and they've done a lot of winning. So if you want to be like a Mitchell Trubisky who kind of leapfrogged everybody and go to the Senior Bowl and just ball out. If he would have balled out in the Senior Bowl, that would have all but basically put more in the conversation of, should he be drafted number 1? Should teams trade up to draft him? Like, you want to put that film in front of everybody because now you're playing against the best seniors, quote unquote, in the country.
mm-hmm.
So
Did you see what Mike said, that Stetson was still drunk from his nights in Texas?
Oh my gosh, Mike.
Mike's been firing him in there in the comments. Well done,
Yeah.
man.
Mike
I've seen him.
Mike has been yeah. Shout out to Mike Patton. All right, let's talk about that. I'll say this: I did write a little bit as well. Shameless plug for an article I wrote, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget anybody. But I wrote an article about Senior Bowl, and some of the folks that I mentioned there was a guard, Osiris Torrance, out of Florida, who played really, really well throughout the week. Killed his one-on-ones matchup. This is also maybe a little bit of my bias, but Derek Hall from Auburn, who I also think could be in the play for the Colts at 35. If he doesn't go late first round, would be really, really great off the edge, especially if the Colts do not re-sign Yannick Ngakoue. I think that you get almost an instant starter in Derek. Let me say that, and you live with the rookie. Ride the rookie wave there. The other one that I looked at, and he was tearing up Senior Bowl, was Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. I mean, he's way smaller, I think, than typical.
I was gonna say Ballard's not drafting him. He's too short.
Well,
He's
yes.
5'10". He's not. No, it's not happening.
Well-
I've already gotten off of some of these great receivers that I think are going to be really exciting in the NFL. Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, Parker Washington. They're just pipe dreams because they are all under 6 feet, and it's just not going to happen. It's not.
Yeah.
Again,
Don't crush my soul.
Unless Ballard has just out of the blue changed his philosophy because he see what he's doing ain't working, which I doubt because it's been 6 years. We're going into year 7. I doubt he's changed his ways. So
let's roll the tape to Kevin, where the Ballardism's indicative that he is going to change his approach this year.
Oh, wait, I think I have something for this. I don't believe so, but hang on, let me check the notes. Well, he said, first of all, he did say we don't have a transfer portal. I don't think that implies, but I did want to point out that Chris Ballard knows we do not have a transfer portal
because fans are ready to get in the transfer portal. Like they are ready to just put me in.
Has he heard of free agency? Because that's kind of like a transfer portal.
Let's just say
here it is, guys. I have it. He said, and I quote, "We got to get better. I'm not going to make excuses. It's where we are at right now." Oh, sorry. No, none of that's relevant to this, is it? No, yeah, I don't think I have anything in here. He was asked if he would go all in and move up to trade for a quarterback, but I'll believe that when I see it. He said yes.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it as well.
Well,
all the chips were already in last season, so he doesn't have anything else to put on the table.
Maybe he could put his grandfather's pocket watch on the table. He can put his grandfather's pocket watch on the table.
Oh, no.
That's my daddy's watch. If anybody's seen Life, then you know the reference.
That's my daddy's watch.
I'm so done with all of you. The last person that I well, actually, there's 2 more that I wrote about. Payne Durham is a tight end from Purdue. Now he is not going to wow you or things like that, but he's got really solid hands and he could be the blocking tight end. And Chris, before you even jump in and say that we could develop Jelani Woods, I think that we should at least take a flyer on a tight end who can block.
I'm 100% with you. I do think we should draft a tight end this year. I do. Another one.
I think that we have sorely missed the talents of one Jack Doyle, and it was painfully evident. And I'll say this. Hopefully Drew is healthy and can come back and contribute, but I don't necessarily know about Drew's blocking ability, so I'd rather just have insurance, just in case.
Well, see,
that's just me.
The thing with Drew was actually a wide receiver that got molded into a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if it's some blocking, he's going to have to work on it. Jelani is kind of the same way, but he was a quarterback before he turned tight end. Both of them are more just like that tweener at the tight end position. So yeah, you're gonna, if anything, I would say probably sign a veteran. I don't know about drafting, but maybe signing a veteran who could come in and be that blocking tight end, but also give them some type of leadership. Because honestly, I think we're going to cut Mo. I think we're going to.
Yeah, his cap hit is not that huge. If you cut him, I think it's 1.2 million. I might be off by a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's possible.
He's supposed to be Jack was, and I'm not seeing him being that blocking tight end, and he's slow and athletic. I don't care if he played basketball. He's slow and he's unathletic. So,
well, and the thing is, they only signed him to an extension because Jack was gone. They had no one else really on the roster, right? Like you had Kylan Granson, but Kylan is a much smaller tight end than most. He is a middle of the field, eat up the yards guy, but they didn't utilize him, so they don't really know what they have in him. And they signed Mo because again, don't have anything else. This is before you even drafted Jelani and Drew. So it was just like, hey, we got to have our veteran tight end. And again, it was Chris Ballard being cheap. But hey.
Yeah,
let's throw it in.
Give me the 4 tight end set. You were asking for it. Yeah, I'll take it. Give me all the tight ends.
Yeah, I was going to say, to answer Mike's question, yes. We don't even know what a 2 tight end set
listen,
like
especially if they 6'7" and 6'6", I will take it, especially in the red zone.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
We got at least 3 pass catching tight ends next year. Bring in a blocking tight end. You see what we have on the receiving core. How couldn't really do any worse, right?
Well,
and Matt Ryan actually might have benefited from a 4 tight end set, he could actually make a lot of passes like 10 yards, and we would have blown it up.
Nah,
And Mike, we let Mo live, Mike, but his time has come to the end of the road. Like I get it. He's lasted a lot longer than people thought he would, but that time has come to an end.
I mean, I was a big Mo fan. Let me say that. Really big Mo fan. I really thought we would get more out of him. But the thing is, like, Mo is just huge. That's where we're at. Like, we're not able to see the things out of him that we really, really need. And he's a big target. Don't get me wrong. He'll catch the ball, you throw it to him. But he's not a down the field threat. He's barely a red zone threat at this point. Jelani has outpaced him, and Jelani's only been here a season. So, like, at this point, like, Mo's got to go. And if you keep Mo, it is purely for a veteran presence at this point.
Yeah,
Like
Woods makes Mo
the
You said what, Boom?
I said Mo is the Matt Pryor of tight ends.
Well, hold on now. He's not that bad.
He's not that bad.
He's not that bad. I do want to say I didn't really watch the Senior Bowl because there was really nobody in there that I wanted to see. I mean, because the receivers that were in there, I knew we wasn't going to draft them because they're too small. So I was just off of that train anyway. But there is one that I do actually hope we're able to draft, and that's John Michael Smith, the center from was it Minnesota, I believe.
Yes.
So just move on from Ryan Kelly, send him on his way, and just plug and play John Michael.
So I'll say this:
he's solid.
He's very, very solid. Yes. Now I was going to say if we were able to between him, I think he's probably more likely than say a Cody Malk or something like that. Like Cody's going to go very high, but I also looked at Cody because he's a swing tackle. He can play either side, and that would be fantastic for us. But I think he's going to
Cody's
be gone.
the one from North Dakota State, right?
I think so. Yeah, with the missing teeth in the front.
Yeah, he's small. I think he can. I think we can play him at guard. To be honest,
and he played all across the line as well at Senior Bowl, but they mainly had him on either tackle spot. But he did really well. I could be wrong, but I don't think I saw anybody get past him in those Senior Bowl practices, nor in the game. I mean, he's a really, really, really solid dude. But I just think he'll be gone by the time that, we actually pick an O-lineman. Unless, hey, Chris Ballard surprises us all and goes O-line at 4, which I think the fan base might spontaneously combust as well if we go O-line at 4. But I digress. All right. So what's coming up is we've got Combine and Pro Days coming up. I believe that Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Will Levis all have Pro Days back to back to back in 3 days like that. So that should be really fun. I will preface this and say that do not get caught up in Pro Days. Those are essentially, hey, those are freebies. Those are, hey, I can make all the throws with no pressure in my face, and these are my wide receivers. It's just you're not going to see anything out that Pro Day that is not going to tell you more than you already know. It's just made to make people look nice. Point in case was Zach Wilson's Pro Day. He looked phenomenal. He threw a 70-yard bomb, and people are like, great. And now he can't throw the ball 10 yards. So
Malik Willis.
Take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, Malik needs time.
Jamarcus Russell. Oh, was I muted? Was I not muted for that one? I'm sorry.
So that's what's coming up next. Obviously, we know we have the draft as well in April. So those are the next sort of things. All this depends on what we do at the head coaching position. I think that will also inform what we, our drafting strategy, at least a little bit of it. We'll see what happens there. All right. So we have a couple minutes left, and that was a lot because I feel like we probably could go for like another hour if I really let us do that. But this is a section of the podcast called Blue Light Special. So this is essentially, what questions do you have for me? And I will answer them. They don't have to be sports related at all. Like I was telling you guys before the show, I got a question about marriage on the last episode. So yeah, what questions do you have for me? And I do have questions for you guys as well. And I guess I'll start with you. Kev, you look like you had a question.
Oh, no, you threw me with having questions for me. Now I'm nervous. Well, let me be the one to start because I have a nice little softball. It is just sports. It is just Colts related, but I just want to know, ideal pie in the sky. You can have whoever you want. Who's the Colts quarterback week 1 next season?
Boom. I honestly, I'm talking myself into Bryce Young because it's possible, like he fits traits wise. The size is where I pause because he's not the typical size that we would typically go for. Like he's not your prototypical Ballard quarterback. But to that end, I don't know that we know what Ballard's prototypical quarterback is because all the ones that we've put out have been retreads. And the ones that have actually been drafted are two different sizes. Jacob Eason is huge and Sam Ellinger is a decent size. So they were both projects. So I don't know. But I do think traits wise, like Bryce Young has all the things that you want. He feels, to me like a pipe dream. Like I would be stunned if the Colts took him. That's who I would want, but who I think is probably more realistic, CJ Stroud.
That's well, that's my vote. I've been saying that since what was it, week 7? Back when it
Yeah.
was still possible that the Colts might not be bad enough to get CJ. Remember those days? Kev,
Oh,
you're
how
silly,
nice
man. We
those.
could never be in the running for CJ. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to us.
Well, no, I feel like I kind of did to us as well because beginning of the season, I was out here saying we could possibly get CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Let's do that. And here we are. I would say this back in March, and here we are, and it's a possibility 1 year later.
So Mike left a question. He said, "Ask Megan when she's going to feature her husband on the podcast." I'm glad you asked,
Whoa.
Mike. I'm glad you asked. So the Colts do play the Falcons here in Atlanta. We are going to that game. We've already decided. And I think I'm going to have my husband on for that week. Like it'll be him and I recapping the game. And I will say, just gonna tighten my glasses here, straighten out a little bit. Well, the last time the Colts and Falcons played, my Colts won, and the game ended with him waving a Colts flag, which was great to see, and I have that captured for all of eternity. So I will welcome the opportunity to have Jay on the podcast. I think that'll be fun. So yeah, and I'd be down to have him on some other episodes. But the thing is, like you guys, like my husband, I don't think this is not his wheelhouse or his lane. So we'd probably have to like practice a few times before we like did this and did it live. Or either I'd have to record it and then edit. So there we go. Any other questions for me?
I got one question for you.
Yeah.
So this is football related because I don't really like. Yeah, it's football related, Colts related.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't have anything else. Any what free agent that we have leaving this year that you absolutely have to have back?
Oh, have to have back?
Yeah.
There's one, Chase McLaughlin. I feel like you need to have him back. He more than proved himself, and if history shows you anything, you cannot take flyers on kickers. At least for us, let me say that. Yeah, Chase McLaughlin absolutely deserves to come back.
All right, Meg, I'll ask you one. It's not football related. So outside of Colts, outside of football, what is one thing you're grateful for today?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I'm grateful for you guys. I think I've told you that at a number of times, but I truly am grateful for the relationships and bonds that we've built. During the work with Stadium Rant, tweeting at each other during games and things like that. You guys are family in my eyes. So, yeah, I'm truly grateful for you guys. And I'll do anything I can to help and support each and every one of you.
Great.
So, yeah. No, I miss you guys a lot. So I hope that, I'm probably going to cry, Mike. See, Mike. No, but seriously, no, when we started this journey last year, I don't think any of us knew really where it was going to go. But throughout the season, we had a ton of fun. I think it all started really with me, dropping in Chris's Twitter spaces that he was having, and then bugging him, being like, "Hey, can I hop in? Can I join these?" And then Justin started hopping in. I think Justin, I don't know, Boom. I think you might have been in a couple of those as well. Chip has been following me for years, for a long, long time. And Kev was like an ad by Stadium Rant who just worked really, really well with us as well. So yeah, it clicked. It worked very, very well. So I'm grateful for that. So, all right. So I have questions. This is a big one for all of you. My question to you guys is, in an ideal scenario, and Chris, I think I already know your answer because I saw you tweet it out earlier today. Ideal scenario: head coach, OC, DC. Who is that list? So, Chris, let's hear yours. I think you tweeted it out.
Yeah, I've tweeted it out a couple times. So yeah, Raheem Morris as the head coach, OC Eric Bieniemy, defensive coordinator. If we keep Gus Bradley, also because him and Raheem Morris have history together. They coached together, I believe, I think at Tampa Bay or something like that. So I would like to keep Gus. Special teams coordinator, I guess Bubba would come back, hopefully. And then our quarterback, CJ Stroud.
Okay. All right, Chip, your ideal scenario.
I can't top that one. You nailed it, Chris.
I think Chip is also ABGJS, anybody but Jeff Saturday. I think that's probably gonna be his answer for a while until we know that he's not.
And to be clear, I am cool with Steichen. Like I would be ecstatic if we got Steichen as well. Either two of them, I would be happy with.
I'm not a GM, so I don't know that I have an ideal. I want the front office to know what they want in a coach, to get the coach that suits that, and that not be Jeff Saturday.
Okay. All right, boom. Ideal scenario: head coach, OC, DC.
I'm pretty much the same with Chris. Except I'm kind of stuck between Eric and Cliff. Even though I just saw Cliff interviewing with the Texans about their OC job, but I'm between Eric and Cliff. I'm really like 1A, 1B, because I know Cliff, from his Texas Tech days, with him just being a gunslinging QB. He's to me, he's the perfect QB coach, and he can see the field and know what to do as far as an OC goes. So, he didn't just come out of nowhere. He didn't just come from college to NFL for nothing. He definitely has the smarts, and he definitely can help out our new QB, CJ Stroud, for the long run. So I think that honestly, I really feel like if we was to get him and draft CJ, I think with what he's gone through with Murray, I think he'll probably approach the rookie quarterback, a little bit differently, because he's seen what he had in Murray, and he knows how to go about it now. So, and plus he doesn't have to, have the whole team, under his umbrella. He just has the offense. So just with less things to carry, and I feel like he will be a great asset. But like I said, Eric Bieniemy, I'm pretty good with him too, because just him dealing with Patrick Mahomes. So I'm really, I just hope we just go ahead and start building this coaching staff after the Super Bowl, because I know that's what they're waiting on. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So Mike is in here just going for it in the comments. He said, what if y'all get hyped to get a young QB and the Colts get another veteran quarterback instead? Mike, just block me back, okay? Just block me back.
What if Brock Purdy don't come back from his injury? And what if Trey Lance never comes back and plays ever again? How about that, Mike? How about that? Now y'all looking for a quarterback. What if y'all re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo and he's y'all starter? Leave us alone, Mike.
Hey, I hear Aaron Rodgers is looking.
Derek Carr.
I mean, Carr could be available.
Carr could take his car on to New Orleans.
Yeah, here New Orleans is great. Great for Derek.
Yeah, please sign all the veteran quarterbacks. Please, we don't need to have nobody on our list. Not near veteran quarterback.
No, I don't want anybody that's currently in this league. Thank you very much.
If they want to be a backup quarterback, fine. Starting, no.
Well, I mean, there's one current quarterback.
Don't start.
and he used to wear the purple and black, and yeah,
He's
he's
staying
from
where
he's
he
from
is.
Florida.
He's
He's from
staying
Florida.
where he
Super
is.
gremlin,
Oh man, you know
about
what?
6'2", 6'3",
I
You know
love
what?
Lamar, but nah.
All right. On that note, let me get Kev's answer. Good lord.
Perfect. I'm
All
going to
right,
help you.
Kev.
I'm going to help you make this easy for everyone. Head coach Jeff Saturday, OC Reggie Wayne, DC Dwight Freeney. Oh, I'm sorry,
Really?
guys. That's actually Jim Irsay's idea. Can't. That's not. I was looking at the wrong side of my sheet. I will go. I'm going. I'm full circle here. All right. You've watched the evolution of my thought process. I'm going to go back to Raheem Morris as my head coach.
Okay.
And here's why. I don't want a head coach that's going to be tempted to call our plays as our offensive coordinator. So in that case, I will go a little off center here. I'll go with Steichen instead of Bieniemy. And then I would also, if we can keep Gus Bradley, I would love that. That'd be ideal for me. So I like that scenario. And yes, also give me CJ Stroud as my quarterback for next year. But yeah, no, that's my ideal situation.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Unless you're
That
calling
was
Jim
an
Harbaugh.
sir. You know what? Honestly, that was my one question I had for all of you. I wanted just to kind of hear what your thoughts were. And I think that was a really good session. I like that. We'll keep that going forward. All right. So now we've come to the end of the podcast. I want to give you guys a second here to plug all your things that you're currently doing. So Kev, I'll start with you. Tell people where they can find you and the things that you do.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Well, you can find me on Twitter at @KevNevick_. I currently am an editor for The Last Word on Basketball. So we cover the NBA and college hoops. So go check that out. We just hit the trade rumors and trade deadlines hard. So now we're looking into the buyout market. Other than that, you can find me running my mouth on Bite Size Sports and hopefully here again sometime soon.
Oh yeah. Listen, you guys are always welcome. I can have you be permanent co-host. That's the thing. But when you have your own things, you can do those types of things. All right, boom. Where can people find you?
You can find me at boom_McGinty on Twitter. You can also find me at Boom McGinty on Facebook. My Facebook, it has some sports stuff, but also has some other crazy stuff to go with it. Here soon, I will be working on my own podcast called Balling with Boom.
Oh,
And as well as a general content podcast called Cracking Codes. So
okay.
yeah, it's 2023 is looking very, very productive. And of course,
I love it.
with my I don't know if I can say any intercept, because we're kind of past that now, but with my Colts fam, I always, check me or, catch me with y'all. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna be at. I'm gonna be at where I'm gonna be at.
I love it. All right, Chip, where can people find you?
You can find me pretty much anywhere you can find Chip Bennett, mostly on Twitter, but mostly for Colts related things. So I'm kind of starting on my social media off season since Colts are in the off season, and most everything else I do online is engineering, project management, really nerdy stuff that you probably wouldn't care about. So catch me on Twitter when the Colts are playing again, and then coming soon to HorseShoe Pride.
Awesome. I love it. All right, Chris, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at DropBallsPod. Pretty much running my mouth all day, every day on Twitter. You can also find my podcast, Drop Balls Podcast, on every major podcast platform. And then, like Chip said, pretty soon we'll get HorseShoe Pride up and running. Get the website up and running, and you can find some of our articles. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a podcast going as well for all things Colts. Yeah, so you can find us there as well. But we'll let y'all know when that pops off. That hopefully soon, but we'll let y'all know when that pops off for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, like I told you guys, come holler at me. I would be down to guest write, content strategist, anything that you need. Would love to do that with you guys. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. It is at the Megan Hall, the one and only, of course. You can also head over to youtube.com. This is Real Life Blue Stories. for the recording of the podcast, of course, if you didn't watch it live, and of course, if you're listening to it. And of course, I think, I just started up the TikTok as well. So Real Life Blue Stories on TikTok as well. Listen, I'm trying to hit all the channels. It's a lot when you're trying to keep everything in front of you. And finally, for more Colts content from me and the entire staff at Colts Wire, head over to coltswire.usatoday.com. I think that's all the things. Yeah. You've been listening to the Real Life Blue Stories podcast with Megan Hall. Appreciate you guys.
Gallop, gallop.
Ah, there we go. I got it. Yes. For old time's sake. Awesome. Thanks, man. I needed that.